my social engineering friends, we're here to talk about public policy. That's what this discussion is about. You can't talk about public policy without talking about process. I have a very narrow function here. I don't have an opinion. I have a job. And my job is to be concerned about the process. Dr. McDowell spoke about incrementalism. So obviously being a doctor and a student of political science. So just quickly, a couple of approaches to public policy, amongst many approaches. Incrementalism or radicalism. I can tell you right now, this legislation is not incremental. I would not call it radical. What I would call it is comprehensive reform. And I think, well, never mind what I think, that's what it is. Again, trying to walk the thin line between opinion and obligation and employment. But certainly, it is comprehensive legislation. So when you're talking about public policy as a process, for this particular dialogue, you're talking about the consequences of a particular or many public policy prescriptions amongst those that are affected. You're talking about consequences. And the consequences have been talked about, very artfully this morning by Ms. Allen, Dr. McDowell, and others, particularly this panel. Representative Potter has chosen to go another direction. Senator Henry has chosen to go another direction. So as it relates to public policy, the process itself, you identify a problem, you develop some policy prescription, you actually draft legislation, you have to do the hard work as Reverend Dr. Bullock, county president, said, you have to go through the troubling waters to get it passed. After that, I think it was also Reverend Bullock that said you have to look back at what you did. And once you take a look back, then you're all back. And I would say probably hasn't been much looking back, and certainly hasn't been much augmentation. So that's again what brings us here this morning. And again, my narrow role as we are here today, as it relates to the public policy process, is the design of the legislation, the actual drafting. There was a question about where the AG stood on this particular piece of legislation. As I stand here this morning on February 22nd, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you we'll know very shortly. And again, to reference Dr. Bullock, you can assume, you can foresee that there will be some adversaries.
It is important that we embrace this legislation because this legislation can be a game changer wherein it is a law.
But going back to actual legislation itself, you go through the actual conceptual phase. I don't know of anybody that's better at going through the conceptual phase than Dr. McDowell.
This bill has many components, and all of them are aligned with the mission statement of our criminal justice system as expressed in our Delaware Code of Laws, to provide treatment, rehabilitation, and restoration of offenders as useful, law-abiding citizens in our communities.
And I think you have seen the result, the work product, a serious concept put on paper. Beyond the concept, then we have to go into actual legislative language. And he has embarked upon both of those. Once you get past that, you go into the actual technical drafting, and that's why I'm standing before you. So, and through all those phases, by the way, there are conversations like this, serious dialogue, with all the stakeholders. Because again, it is a process and it takes form over time with the relevant input from all the necessary parties. So that is essentially the process, and I wanted to talk to you about process, where we are in the process. What you see this morning will change. It will change because it will touch many titles in the Delaware Code, and that is my function. And actually, it will probably be the function of one of my colleagues, another House attorney, because we will be writing it in tandem. We are writing it in tandem. Because it is a major piece of legislation, and it takes a lot of legal manpower to get done technically. But once we submit our product, it goes to the codifiers. They actually put it in language, and it comes out in wonderful West reporting books that you will see when it is actually passed. And I am speaking that to the university. So that is the process. It will take some time. Again, I would just like to emphasize that what you see this morning is conceptual, and it will change to a large extent, again, just to be Delaware specific, as County Executive Gordon said, because that is required if it is going to pass in both houses of our legislature. Thank you.